of Decibels. Escalating delusions of the architecture and topology of sound. 1. West Berlin, a prison in which its people are free. Of the Cold War, and for nigh on a decade, a clamorous, acoustically charged, ideological battle of Pyrrhic sonic victories ensued between the competing worldviews of communism and capitalism. Berlin, the recently maligned city of terror, now turned prize, at once bifunctional portal and portent of a future to come, to a barely penetrable Eastern Bloc world behind the Iron Curtain, and to the manufactured fantasy of the unfettered freedom of the West. As each system fought for the defense and strategic geopolitical control of the already war-weary, multiply occupied and divided city, ideological sound clashes played out speaker to speaker, sound system to sound system, a war by other means, were launched across the armed checkpoints and barbed wire of a new wall under perpetual, communist-initiated construction.
Die Mauer genügt den Machthabern der Zone nicht. Sie haben jetzt mit einer Lärmoffensive begonnen. Aus riesigen Lautsprechern unmittelbar an der Mauer tönen in höchster Lautstärke Propagandasendungen. Der Krach ist so gewaltig, dass man in den Wohnungen an der Sektorengrenze sogar bei geschlossenen Fenstern kaum das eigene Wort verstehen kann.
Das war furchtbar. Also um 8 Uhr, da haben wir uns die Ohren zu halten, wie die Brüder hier die großen Staus aufgerissen haben. Und so, also das geht doch gar nicht. Nun hält da eben durch, dann wollen wir feststellen, wer hier laut gewesen ist.
Transforming each sector into virtual carceral archipelagos, fortress enclosures, composer Georgi Ligeti, having fled from Soviet-controlled Hungary, called West Berlin a surrealist cage, a bizarre prison in which only those locked up inside were free. The Berlin Wall was to become the preferred site for a confrontational mobile war of decibels between East and West Germany.
13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Parallel to the accelerating programs of the Soviet-US space race, itself a proxy war, an escalating Loudsprecherkrieg, or speaker war, seemingly predicated on a Cold War recasting of the biblical tale of the walls of Jericho, was being pitched in jet-age proportions, employing methods of bass-heavy guerrilla sonic raids on space. They tried to divide the sky.
Launching, all presence, never hesitant, moving, torching, carry the burden on the way to a greater tomorrow, to slay all forms of sorrow, decadence inside of decadence. Consider this part excellence, consider this part beyond excrement. monkeys flinging shit caught inside of the cage. Your marsupial habits are too much for your rage. Turn over the page, a mystery. The Mysterons are pissed on or pissed off. You can list this, but you can never get off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off.
Hier sind alle Sender des Deutschen Demokratischen Rundfunks. Wir verlesen Ihnen nun eine Erklärung des Ministerrats der Deutschen Demokratischen Republik. In dem Bestreben, die internationalen Spannungen zu verstärken und einer deutschen Friedensregelung neue Hindernisse zu bereiten, greifen die herrschenden Kreise der Deutschen Bundesrepublik zu verschiedenen Provokationen, die gefährliche Folgen haben können. In letzter Zeit werden in Westdeutschland erneut Drohungen laut, den Handel mit der Deutschen Demokratischen Republik abzubrechen.
Das sozialistische Ghetto wird weiter ausgebaut. Stacheldraht, Betonmauern, Hindernisse, aufgerissene Straßen, Doppelzäune, zugemauerte Haustüren, verriegelte Fenster, Straßensperren, gefällte Bäume und Todesstreifen genügen noch immer nicht. Jetzt steht das erste Stacheldrahtnetz.
Two, humiliation. Commandeering police vehicles, Rote Hugos or Red Hugos, customized with public announcement systems and fixed direction loudspeakers fitted atop their roofs. The East German military were the initiators of this program of sonic warfare. Send in sonic salvos of Soviet martial music, Communist party songs and propaganda through the barbed wire intervals and over the wall. They began testing the spanning capacities of sound's ability to surpass architectural boundaries and territorial boundaries. In so doing, they achieved multiple successes in the drive-by drowning out of public gatherings and political speeches on the other side of the wall in West Berlin. Most notably, publicly humiliating West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer by forcing him to abandon his keynote speech at the wall by the Brandenburg Gate in August 1961. Yet, in an age of a newly unbounded potential of sonic mechanical reproduction, East German SED party leader Walter Ulbricht would himself come to rue his now infamous, much-quoted speech just 2 months before implementing the first iteration of the wall. A speech in which he assured the world,
Niemand hat die Absicht, eine Mauer zu errichten.
nobody has any intention of building a wall. What Ulbricht had perhaps not countenanced in that moment is that the sonic is hauntological. It can be captured, endlessly rewound and repeated, turned back as a weapon against its wielder. Contemporary accounts attest to the highly retaliatory nature of these provocations. At stake was no less than the terminal destabilization of the legitimacy of the other side's political credibility. But how to ensure the effective transmission of one's own ideologies with the resultant conversion and defection of your enemy without simultaneously falling victim to their propaganda? An impasse, fears of ideological contamination loomed large on both sides.
Es liegen Mitteilungen vor. Für 1 und 2. 1 und 2.
To escape the scale, to find yourself in hell. Perverse, perverting each verse, hurting, crushed by the boulder, the skull, the intake, nullified, zero, null, to swim inside of the hole, cascade into tomorrow, today, any form of sorrow, slay, crispy, succulent, caught by the end, trapped once again in the cage of your own making, awaken from the slumber. Architecture encroaches on your future. The labyrinth thinks, get caught within the trap like the bear. 440 winks, not to know the link into the linkage, seepage, moving in the sewer, the mind obscure, creates its own citadel, the individual becomes more. Becomes more.
begrüßen den deutschen Soldatensender. Wir senden täglich 6:15 Uhr, 12:30 Uhr, 18 Uhr, 20:15 Uhr und 23:30 Uhr auf Mittelwelle 935 kHz.
Um es gleich sehr deutlich und unmissverständlich auszusprechen. Wir haben es satt. Restlos satt. Was seit 10 und mehr Jahren unter Ausnutzung der Besatzungsverhältnisse in West-Berlin getrieben wird. Bis hierher und nicht weiter. Wir haben eine Engelsgeduld gehabt. Wir haben seit 1948 zugesehen, wie West-Berlin ausgebaut wurde. Als Frontstadt, als Pfahl im Fleische der DDR, als auf das Herz der Zone zielende Lanzenspitze. Alles Aussprüche westlicher Politiker oder Zitate aus Westdeutschland. Wir haben zugesehen. Und gelegentlich haben unsere Organe der Staatssicherheit zugegriffen. Aber unser Hauptaugenmerk richteten wir darauf, unseren Staat aufzubauen. Trotz der Westberliner Störtätigkeit ist die DDR heute die 5. stärkste Industriemacht und produziert zum Beispiel mehr als der gesamte afrikanische und australische Kontinent zusammen. Obwohl wir 1945 auf den Nullstand begonnen haben, im Gegensatz zur Bundesrepublik. Aber nun reicht es uns, dass mitten in unserem Staat ein Gebilde existiert, in dem Dutzende von Organisationen nichts anderes versuchen, als bei uns Unruhe zu erzeugen, Misstrauen gegen die Regierung zu stiften und uns in unseren Bemühungen um die Verbesserung des Lebens nach schlechtesten Kräften zu behindern.
Three, acoustic blast across borders. Having suffered a number of these mobile border blasts from the east, Adenauer gives the green light for the West Berlin organization,
Studio am Stacheldraht,
or Studio at the Barbed Wire, initiated in 1961 under Interior Senator Joachim Lifshitz and in collaboration with the Protectorate, US-founded and funded broadcaster RIAS, to embark upon decisive countermeasures.
Richtiger müsste es heißen Studio hinterm Stacheldraht. Es war gewissermaßen der RIAS auf Selbstfahrlafette.
A small fleet of heavy vehicle trucks and Volkswagen Kombi or camper vans, simultaneously and ironically the chosen vehicle of freedom of Californian Beach Boy surfers, were repurposed into fully equipped, autonomous, one-man operated transmission studios. With rooftop clusters of the latest American-developed loudspeaker horns fitted onto bespoke hydraulic cranes and controls that enables not only the elevation of the speakers over the wall, reaching right into and spanning more than 5 kilometers across the enemy territory.
Wir haben diese Krawalltüten auf Rädern zunächst gewähren lassen. Aber als es für die Berliner beiderseits unserer Grenze zu viel wurde, ganz einfach lästig, da haben wir zurückgefunkt. Nicht nur mit besseren Argumenten, sondern auch mit besseren Lautsprechern. Um es ganz deutlich zu sagen, wir können es lauter.
The directional concentration of a sustained sonic assault onto a chosen unfortunate position or event gestured to a maniacal politics of achieving sonic superiority.
3, 2, 1.
Of the first deployments of these now functional mobile and hydrolyzed acoustic weaponry studios, whose greatest potential lay in being assembled into a networked swarm of ear-splitting terror, and which would leave the East with no retort, the technical chief of the Studio Am Stapeldraht, Dieter Greetz, pronounced, "The noise from a jet engine at 7 yards is about 105 tons. Just one of our trucks alone can throw out 130 tons." Asked if the swarm formation could emit a lethal din, well, it probably wouldn't kill a man, but it would disturb his hearing and make him vomit. Directed at the East German military, this is a Cold War politics of pure sonic repulsion.
An der Grenze zwischen Reinickendorf und Wilhelmsruh trafen wir heute das fahrende Studio am Stacheldraht, den Westberliner Lautsprecherwagen. Täglich fährt er rund um Berlin an der Sektoren- und Zonengrenze entlang. Täglich sendet das fahrbare Studio den Volkspolizisten und den Landsleuten in Ostberlin die neuesten Nachrichten und aktuelle Kommentare.
Männer der Volkspolizei, Männer der Nationalen Volksarmee. Seit dem 13. August stehen Polizei und Armee hier an dieser Grenze. Warum eigentlich? Fragt euch einmal, warum ihr hier stehen müsst. Eure Funktionäre sagen euch, dieser Unfug sei nötig, um den Frieden zu erhalten. Sie versuchen euch einzureden, diese Maßnahmen der sogenannten DDR in den Frieden bewahren. Ihr seid klug genug, um diese Lüge zu erkennen. Keiner von euch kann glauben, dass von West-Berlin aus der Friede gefährdet wird. Das glauben nicht einmal eure Funktionäre.
Kurz nach dem 13. August wurde das sogenannte Studio am Stacheldraht in Aktion gesetzt. Der Rias auf Selbstfahrlafette, wie man ihn nennen kann, begann zu grölen. Einige Lautsprecherwagen des Senats wurden pausenlos an die Staatsgrenze geschickt. Die Verleumdungen, Hasstiraden, Lügen und sogar die offene Aufforderung zum Aufruhr plärrten und die psychologische Kriegsführung an unserer Staatsgrenze entfachten, die zur Klagemauer des Brandsenats geworden war.
Heute ist der Sozialismus erwacht, heute stehen wir Studio am Stacheldraht. Wir senden Nachrichten und Unterhaltung. Guten Tag.
Statt endlich Vernunft anzunehmen, setzte der Senat auch mit seinen Krawalltüten auf Rädern den gefährlichen, den friedensgefährdenden Weg fort.
Nachrichten, davor braucht ihr euch doch wohl nicht zu fürchten, oder?
Seine Lautsprecher gaben nichts anderes als die Begleitmusik zu den Anschlägen auf die S-Bahn und zu den militärischen Demonstrationen, die die ganze Welt in Erregung versetzten. Aus diesem Grunde und weil wir für Ruhe und gegen die Unruhe sind, aus diesem Grunde gingen unsere Grenzsicherungseinheiten dazu über, der Stimme der Wahrheit und Vernunft Gehör zu verschaffen. Und es zeigte sich sehr bald, dass wir nicht nur über die besseren Argumente, sondern auch über die besseren Lautsprecher verfügen.
Meine Damen und Herren, ein sehr dramatischer Zwischenfall. Nachdem als erstes Tränengasbomben geschmissen wurden als Antwort auf die Nachrichten der freien Presse, hat jetzt ein sowjetzonaler Fopo-Offizier die Maschinenpistole ergriffen und richtet sie auf den Lautsprecherwagen hier auf dem westlichen Gelände, etwa 100 Meter entfernt von einem Fabrikgebäude.
Wer den Frieden hier gefährdet, ist unschwer zu erkennen. Es ist Ulbricht. Er hat hier Mauern und Stacheldraht errichten lassen. Er hat befohlen, dass ihr hier herumstehen müsst. Er vertreibt eure Landsleute aus ihren Wohnungen an der Sektorengrenze. Er befiehlt euch sogar, auf eure eigenen Landsleute zu schießen.
Es schreien die US-Strategen. Hört ihr es nicht? Sie schreien nach neuen Raketen. Hört ihr es nicht? Vom Rhein wird mit Abschreckungslärm gedroht, mit Superwaffen, Neutronen und Tod. Das ist die moderne Inquisition gegen dich und die Sowjetunion.
The loudspeaker war thus reaches its apotheosis.
Split him and get him and listen once again, my brother in the vibe and find a way to survive or get out of it if you doubt it. More style, more wicked and more wild. Yeah, profile. Yeah, find a way to conclude shrewd. Yeah, batter than bruise and get in the mood. Rhyme definition, now listen, cause the Christian the surface of your citadel. Yeah, castle, you can understand, make it more grand. When they ready, make a plan, that's major danger. Hard to define, now you find a way out. The situation is mining deep, disappear inside of your souls. Never sleep, never know, looking for the goal. Mineral, individual, pole to pole, cascade, divided. Perfect with the arithmetic, times two I decided. When I ready I give more seesaw, playground, the sound. It's the way that they get down. Lost and found, who would know the conclusion. Losing, finders, keepers, weepers. Jamming on the one. Symbolism, now listen to the intermission. Precision or preciseness. Nothing but a crisis of cities. Inside of cities. Inside of cities. Inside of cities.
State-sanctioned mobile sonic weaponry in service to adversarial ideological fantasies of territorial, geopolitical and psychic domination. The technological extremes of sound simultaneously wielded in a perverse interplay of sonic attraction and sonic repulsion to penetrate, encroach, burrow as far and as is deeply possible into the walled-off worlds of those once called family, friends, but now deemed enemy, in attempts to conquer the inner space, the psychological interiority of that newly created enemy other.
Unser Weg ist noch nicht zu Ende, Kamera nicht weit voran. Sie im Wind, die Fahne vor uns weg, sie führt die Marschkolonne an. Soldaten, Marsch, Marsch, Marsch. Mein Schatz, ich kann nicht bleiben, doch will ich auf die Scheibe, damit vertrete uns. Soldaten voran, fürchtet keiner von ihnen, alle mit dem gleichen Marschall, was am J, Soldat tief Bachon.
Inner pressure. The Cold War, an iterative, closed-circuit feedback loop. Parallel movements, differing perhaps in kind-type degree, but all attuned, aligned for a brief moment to the same ideological sonic registers, frequencies. In subsequent decades, the ideological weaponizations of sound systems is replayed in other indirect extensions of the Cold War, in other moments of geopolitical crises. In Vietnam, they are tuned to an area register in the US military's urban funk and wandering soul campaigns, exploiting Vietnamese Buddhist beliefs and ancestor worship against a near imperceptible guerrilla adversary. Apache helicopters bearing loudspeaker horns and blasting near-deafening magnetic tape recordings of the simulated ghostly, ethereal voices of the ancestors' unnerving cries, wailings, messages from the beyond, in the dead of night and high above the jungle canopy, itself a physical division between worlds, achieve a transcendental power. The voice of a superior force. The voice of God. Hugh Wagner's Valkyries. And Jamaica? How does this diminutive island, lying in the watery breast of the Caribbean, an island territory, existing in the reverberations of the forced, monstrous intimacy, as once mere pabulum to the voracious appetites of the triangular transatlantic slave trade, as the scene of subjection and attestation of what the longue durée of atrocities meted out over centuries by competing interchangeable successive empires can do.
We do not defend Marxism nor capitalism. We are strictly Rasta. We independent. We don't have America to go and beg anything, nor Russia to beg anything. We prefer stand up on our own self, which is Rasta, black people right.
How does Jamaica become entangled in a Loudsprecherkrieg begun on another continent 5,252 miles away? A perhaps surprising protagonist in this Cold War continuum, Jamaica forms a vital articulation. Almost contemporaneous with Berlin's escalating sonic delusions, it is the angle between two walls. It is World War II, England, and an array of military acoustic technologies that constitute the gestational incubator for the future of Jamaican reggae sound systems. Born of the wartime experiences of Jamaican radar engineer Hedley Jones, his training within the Royal Air Force provides a virtual playground for experimentation with the then cutting-edge electronics and amplification technologies. Lessons from the colonial mother, stored up for cultural transfiguration and thunderous activation in the return home. His self-constructed Williamson form amplifier was the launch base for the first and best mobile sound systems, and ever after, the simulacrum of ritual violence enacted in the noise weapons of the sound clashes that would follow. Yet, it was within the context of the decolonial struggles for independence and self-determination during the 1960s, and taking place across the continents of an Africa and Asia in revolt, and the Caribbean. Explicit Cold War politicization of sound systems and sound system culture would again be played out, speaker to speaker, sound system to sound system, during the Jamaican general elections of the 1970s. The island divides along sono-political lines as sound systems and their followers self-affiliated with either Michael Manley's socialist-leaning, Castro-courting People's National Party or Edward Seaga's, off-court Edward C. Iega, American-facing Jamaica Labour Party, to go far beyond a mere sonic simulacrum of violence as a proxy war took hold.
The two political parties operated as proxies in the global Cold War.
The US, fearful of the spread of contagion and of another potential communist outpost so close to Africa, to Cuba, to home, Castro and the USSR dreaming of ideological and territorial expansion as the old imperial world order crumbles.
War in the east, war in the west.
Whereas before there was coexistence, there was rivalry. I'm a JLP man, I'm a labor right. I'm a PNP man, I'm a comrade.
Michael Manley has been Prime Minister since 1972 and says 300 years of slavery and British colonialism have left Jamaica a nation of very few haves and many have-nots.
Rival politics have become sectarian, with daily battles between PNP and JLP supporters. Shootouts left hundreds dead and others caught in the crossfire.
For 2.5 hours this morning, while nothing less than 2,000 rounds of ammunition were fired.
Whilst this first iteration of the Cold War and its offshoots may have officially thawed,
only back then about other brutal life.
And the Berlin Wall succumbed, eventually, to a socio-political and vibrational accretion of pressure, resultant in the fateful Mauerfall.
Yes, reporting here live, we can see it's all happening. History in the making, falling, the chipping away, the slow, it's quite something. Yes, right here we can see it all falling, history in the making, falling away, brick by brick, falling down, falling apart. Yes, we can see right here reporting something very exciting, never seen before. Brick by brick, freedom, freedom, freedom freeing itself from the chains of yes. We can see right here, falling. And the crowd is screaming, the Mauer is yes, and now falling brick by brick, crumbling before our very eyes. Yes, yes. Teeming, many falling brick by brick, crumbling before our very eyes, before our very eyes, yes. This up here, see you right, yes. Move inside of the gesticulation afresh. Nonetheless, you guessed it. Why would you question it? About to, no doubt, moving out inside, falling down. No brick wall season. Anytime treason is now needed to move beyond the edge. Make your political pledge. Make your understanding something that you knew to see through. Find the golden apparition or the ratio. I told them keep on folding. Disappear, reappear, lacerate inside of your air. Share continental ballistic, sadistic. And if you think of it as a trick, you'll get it sooner or later. The manipulator, conversation, the greater definer. Cooling out at the Cold War, glass jaw, breaking through to the other side, stumbling, yes, crumbling, yes. Something is pulling from the beyond, division inside of the thought, never known to be wrong, smash. Splash the surface of Alcatraz. Cities inside the cities, inside the cities. What a pity, it's real. The nitty gritty, the pledge is now taken for the keys to the city. Rearranging them, bringing home all forms of bacon. Talk, pork in the direction. If you stalk around the city and leave marks, trace them, following the virus of the mind shall replace every kind. Freedom entwined, leaving your spatial apparition or your sense of safety. Leave them all wishing. Fortunate, never known to be guessing the clue that you knew, that you see, saw, or the playground, a sound that you never heard. T-culture style, swoop down vulture, scheming because you are dreaming, waking up inside of, yes, cities inside the cities. I say yes. Cities inside the cities, cause you was trapped inside the go-go clubs looking at titties. What a pity. 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 What a pity.
The media played a crucial role in Germany's reunification. East Germany was completely isolated from the rest of the world after Germany's division, but the broadcast from the West caused East Germans to seek freedom.
In the stretch of time between that moment, this ideological posturing and sono-political assault on enemy territory is still sporadically employed on both sides of the Korean demilitarized zone.
Pyongyang's alleged H-bomb test early this week was deemed an unusual event, prompting Seoul to resume its loudspeaker broadcast. South Korea's loudspeakers can be heard 24 kilometers away at night and 10 kilometers away during the day. This means that not only the frontline soldiers can hear them, but also local residents living near the demilitarized zone.
A no man's land, reclaimed by nature, in an ongoing war seemingly without end, and finds sinister repetition in the belligerence of new actors keen on reigniting both old and new hostilities.
We're going to build a wall, folks. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build it. Don't worry. We're going to build the wall. That wall will go up so fast, your head will spin, will spin, will spin, will spin, will spin, will spin, will spin.
And the foxes? Apocryphal tales still circulate today in Berlin, in which it is said that in the long duration of the war and its many iterations, even the foxes were made to play their part, adhering too to the strict border division of the city, too afraid to cross the political divide. Decades of neurological entrainment and epigenetically adapted, today it is said that still they cannot wander across a divide that is no longer there.